The video lasted 94 seconds. A man walked through an apartment tower in Zhengzhou. Dozens of doors sealed shut. Lights off. Trash piling up in hallways. He whispered, "These homes were never lived in. Or maybe their owners no longer can." It spread fast. Shared by migrant workers, parents, students with defaulted loans. A quiet truth traveling through a loud country. By the next morning, it was gone. Deleted from Weibo. Banned from Douyin. The uploader's account disabled. His only crime? Showing an empty building. In today's China, that's enough. Because if too many people see what's really happening, they might start asking why. And when enough people ask why, the system answers not with reform, but with silence. So the homes stay empty, and the people who lived or once tried to live disappear. Online first, then everywhere else. They called it the gray zone, a cluster of half-built towers outside Zhengzhou, promised as luxury housing for first-time buyers. Glass windows were installed, elevators tested, marketing banners still hang from the scaffolding. But no one lives there. Every apartment is technically sold, but the developer ran out of money. Construction stopped in 2022. No workers returned. No compensation offered. Some families moved in anyway. No heating, no gas, no property deeds. They sleep on concrete floors and light their homes with portable generators. They tried to raise awareness. One woman posted photos of her toddler bundled in 3 layers of jackets, shivering beside a camping stove. The caption read, "We believed in the Chinese dream. Now we boil water from a fire pit." Within hours, the post was taken down. Her account suspended. This is not a one-off. Across China, more than 2,000 housing projects are frozen or abandoned, according to unofficial watchdog groups. Buyers call themselves unfinished orphans. They pay mortgages on homes they can't live in. And when they speak out, they vanish from the internet. Entire online forums about the mortgage crisis have been wiped. Support groups on WeChat and QQ shut down. In one case, an apartment owner's chat with 287 members disappeared overnight. No explanation, no archive. This isn't just censorship. It's strategy. Because the deeper the housing collapse gets, the more Beijing needs the narrative to stay positive. State media repeats the same phrase, "The market is stabilizing." Officials claim that isolated delays are being addressed. But the lived reality on the ground tells another story. In Shanghai, property prices have fallen more than 30% in some districts. Yet even with deep discounts, 220,000 resale listings sit unsold. Developers are offering everything from free parking to gold bars, just to close deals. It's not working. Homeowners are stuck. Banks refuse to pause mortgages. If buyers default, they're blacklisted from travel, education, and even high-speed rail. If they complain online, they're labeled instigators. And if they protest, police appear first. Journalists, never. This is how the housing crisis becomes something else. A speech crisis, a silence campaign, not just about real estate, but about who is allowed to tell the truth. One tech worker in Chengdu tweeted, "It's not the house I regret buying. It's the country I believed would protect me." His tweet went viral. 2 hours later, his account was gone. The system didn't evict him. It erased him. What broke the system wasn't a protest. It was a policy. In 2024, the U.S. imposed a sweeping tariff package on Chinese imports, reaching up to 145% for key sectors like electronics, appliances, toys, and home furnishings. At the same time, the Biden and Trump administrations agreed on a rare point: close the de minimis loophole, a quiet channel that once let companies like Shine and Temu move billions in low-value goods into the U.S. without paying duties. That loophole is now gone. So are the orders. Exports to the U.S. fell by 8.3% in 2024. Factories cut hours. Then they cut wages. Then they cut people. And the people? They were homeowners. People like Li Chong, a 35-year-old technician in Dongguan. He worked for a component supplier whose biggest client was a U.S.-based medical equipment company. When tariffs hit, the contract was canceled. Lee was laid off in November. He missed 3 mortgage payments. His lender froze his account and put him on a restricted travel list. He tried to document his story on Douyin. The video got 11,000 views in 2 hours before being removed. The comment section was flooded with stories just like his. "I'm 5 months behind. We can't sell. No one's buying. Mortgage equals life sentence." But then the comments disappeared too. This isn't just personal misfortune. This is what happens when an economy built on foreign orders slams into a closed door. For years, Chinese families were told, "Work hard. Buy property. The government will protect the market." But no one warned them. Their mortgage was backed not by local stability, but by global demand. And when that demand dries up, so does the oxygen. The government knows this. That's why it doesn't want anyone talking about it. Housing forums have banned words like collapse, boycott, or default. WeChat searches for mortgage strike return no results. Search for why no work and you get tourism ads instead. The censorship isn't random. It follows the cracks. Because where the economy breaks, the narrative must be sealed. Beijing calls it stability maintenance. But for homeowners drowning in debt, it feels like gaslighting at scale. They see towers that won't be finished. They see friends selling apartments for less than what's owed, if they can sell at all. They see their own posts vanish. They see others disappear with them. The financial collapse may start with unpaid loans. But the social collapse begins with one realization. No one is coming to help. And if you say that out loud, the system doesn't debate you. It deletes you. In most countries, when a company fails, it files bankruptcy. In China, it just disappears. That's what happened in Anhui province, where an apartment complex called Golden Future City stopped construction halfway through its second tower. The sales center was shut. The developer's office emptied overnight. No forwarding address. No refund. Just a group of buyers standing in front of a billboard that promised completion by Q4 2024. Welcome home. It's now Q2 2025. The rebar is rusting. Across China, the number of stalled housing projects now exceeds 2,000, according to unofficial watchdog reports. Big names like Evergrande, Sunac, and Country Garden once dominated billboards and airport ads. Now they dominate courtrooms and creditor meetings. In January, Evergrande's offshore branch was ordered to liquidate. Its founder, Su Jiayin, faces investigation. But for the hundreds of thousands who bought into its ghost projects, the real sentence is silence. Buyers have formed chat groups to share updates, legal advice, or even organize protests. But those groups never last. WeChat and QQ now require real name registration for all housing forums. Trigger phrases like refund delay, illegal presale, or developer vanished flag accounts for review. One buyer wrote, "We just want to know what's happening to our money." Her account was suspended in 12 hours. But the pressure doesn't stop with buyers. Developers themselves are vanishing under layers of debt. Country Garden, once considered financially sound, is now undergoing a $190 billion debt restructuring. Its response? Pause construction, cut headcount, push liabilities downstream. That downstream includes cement suppliers who never get paid, landscaping contractors left with half-built parks, local governments with empty plots and unpaid land use fees. In this chain, trust is the first casualty. And while developers are vanishing, tech platforms are complicit in keeping it quiet. Posts about unfinished housing on Douyin, China's TikTok, are shadow banned. Users say videos showing cracked ceilings, leaking pipes, or stalled cranes are allowed, until they mention a company name. That's when takedowns begin. Even live streams, once a last resort for citizen journalism, now require platform vetting for sensitive content. One vlogger in Hunan filmed her parents' apartment after the ceiling collapsed. It gained 50,000 views before being flagged. Her account was frozen. Her access to bank apps suspended, pending ID verification. The message is clear. Tell your story, but only if no one is listening. And for real estate agents, Even they're pulling out. In 2025, more than 70,000 real estate agents across China left the industry, citing low sales, commission disputes, and personal risk. With no new buyers, they've become debt collectors in disguise, tasked with chasing down payment plans that both sides know are pointless. The government's response? Announce confidence, suppress dissent, and keep saying the same thing. The market is stabilizing. But what does that mean when developers are vanishing, platforms are silencing, and the only thing rising is unfinished concrete? One user put it bluntly, the homes are unfinished, the conversations are deleted, and the system is complete only when no one complains. That post is gone now too. She didn't think it was dangerous. She just wanted help. Lu Jing, a schoolteacher in Hunan, uploaded a short video to Douyin. She showed her family living in a half-finished apartment. No floors, no doors. Her son's bed was a folding cot next to a water bucket. She spoke slowly. We moved in because we had nowhere else. My husband hasn't been paid in 2 months. The developer stopped answering. The video hit 38,000 views in 5 hours. Then it vanished. So did her account. This is now routine in China. Say too much and the system doesn't argue. It deletes. Across the country, a quiet purge of digital voices is underway. According to Q1/2025 internal monitoring reports, 40 million posts were erased from Weibo. Over 2,000 independent accounts were shut down or warned. Entire forums discussing mortgage boycotts, unpaid wages, or stalled projects were de-indexed from Baidu. And it's not just algorithms. It's people. Local propaganda departments have public opinion teams tasked with real-time monitoring of social unrest keywords. When someone posts a video about housing delays, they receive a call. When they go viral, police may visit in person. Please stop spreading false information, they're told. Even when the video shows bare concrete and broken promises. Some resist, most don't, because in China, digital punishment follows you offline. Take Yang Hui, a software engineer from Chengdu. He posted on Jihu, a Quora-style forum, asking, "Why are we paying mortgages on homes we can't live in?" The post was shared thousands of times. Then, his Jihu account was banned. His company was contacted. His HR manager asked him to delete the post or face suspension. He deleted it, but the damage was done. He later found out his social credit profile had been flagged. He can no longer book high-speed train tickets. His credit card limit was reduced without warning. No hearing, no appeal, just friction. Even memes aren't safe. Netizens once used a popular cartoon frog to mock real estate slogans. Instead of "Your dream starts here," they captioned it, "Your nightmare has no exit." Within 48 hours, the image hash was blacklisted. Reposting triggered autobans. The most chilling part? People have stopped asking, "What's real?" Now they ask, "How do I say this without getting banned? Will my account survive the week? Should I post at 3 a.m. instead?" This self-policing becomes the final layer of censorship. You don't need to jail truth-tellers if they stop telling. Some have tried to escape online altogether. Bloggers now upload videos to foreign platforms using VPNs. But even then, their families receive warnings. Parents get calls. Employers get visits. One man who shared stories about unfinished housing later posted, "The videos didn't go viral, but the knock on my door did." He hasn't posted since. This is China's digital paradox. More smartphones than any other country. More surveillance than any other state. More stories to tell, and fewer people allowed to tell them. At the core of the crisis isn't just debt. It's denial. Not just financial bankruptcy, but narrative bankruptcy. Because when a society punishes not just the wrongdoers, but those who describe what's wrong, what's left to believe in, what's left to say, and who's still listening. In late April 2025, China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs made a quiet announcement. It would lift sanctions on 5 members of the European Parliament, originally imposed in retaliation for criticism of human rights violations. The move was framed as goodwill, a step toward restoring constructive dialogue. But in Brussels, the reaction was frost. European officials called the gesture selective, unconvincing, and too late, because they'd seen the videos. They'd read the reports. They knew what was happening inside. While Beijing broadcasts charm to the world, it suppresses truth at home. This contradiction isn't just inconvenient. It's becoming unsustainable. On one hand, China tells Europe, we want trade, investment, a return to mutual respect. On the other, it jails critics, deletes housing protests, and punishes journalists who document economic fallout. Even countries that once hesitated to criticize are shifting stance. In 2024, the EU's trade deficit with China hit 90 billion euros, a record. Eurostat flagged China's state-subsidized overproduction of EVs and solar panels as market distortion. Now, multiple investigations are underway across the bloc. France and Germany are actively preparing tariff frameworks, mirroring U.S. policies. Ireland, once exploring purchase of China's C919 jet, is now reconsidering after U.S. lawmakers warned of military linkages and IP theft. This isn't decoupling by force. It's retreat by choice. Because when your partner silences its citizens, hides its economic collapse, and pretends nothing's wrong, trust erodes. And so does influence. Globally, the U.S. is pulling ahead. Under a renewed economic security doctrine, Washington is finalizing trade agreements with 15 to 18 partners, including India, Mexico, and Vietnam, expanding export controls on sensitive sectors like semiconductors and aerospace, backing regulatory blocks against Chinese firms in allied markets. India's exports to the U.S. rose 12% in 2024. Vietnam's grew by 15%. Meanwhile, China's dropped again. Even Beijing's state media has begun using euphemisms like structural adjustment and temporary softness to describe what's clearly an exodus. But inside China, you won't see this coverage. You won't hear about the failing housing sector or the erased workers or the silenced live streams. Instead, headlines read, confidence remains strong, youth returning to tradition, foreign influence targeted and removed. It's not just a disconnect. It's two different realities. One crafted for the world, the other enforced at home. The contradiction is bleeding into diplomacy. In ASEAN forums, China calls for regional unity, but behind closed doors, leaders are wary of overdependence. In Africa, China promotes mutual development, but some nations are defaulting on Belt and Road loans and not renewing contracts. Even within BRICS, members are diverging on how closely to tie their economies to Beijing. Isolation isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it happens like this: meetings postponed, MOUs unsigned, trust quietly withdrawn. And when foreign investors ask questions about China's housing market or debt levels, they're pointed toward official data, which no longer includes youth unemployment or accurate real estate figures, because numbers like people can vanish. In 2024, China's foreign exchange reserves dropped from $3.2 trillion to $2.9 trillion, the lowest in a decade. Capital flight is accelerating. The world isn't just moving on, it's hedging against the fallout. Beijing is still smiling, still calling for dialogue, still publishing green indexes and growth targets. But in the silence beneath those numbers lies a louder truth. You can't delete your way out of a credibility crisis. You can't unlock foreign partnerships when you're locking your own citizens out of the conversation. The building still stands. Empty units, locked doors, the people who once lived there gone. Some left for the countryside. Others went quiet. A few tried to speak. Their posts were removed. Their names blurred out. Their screens went black. This wasn't an earthquake. No war. No pandemic. Just a silent crash of an economy built on borrowed dreams. And when the walls cracked, and the debt closed in, and the hope drained out, even their voices were repossessed. So now we ask, in a place where you can't afford your home, and can't speak about losing it, what do you own? When both the apartment and the account are locked, what part of your life still belongs to you?